listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. Every week we bring you news and information you can use on your next real estate transaction. I'm Shannon Register, and every week we answer your real estate questions. Just call them in to 281-882-8088, and we'll be happy to answer your real estate questions right here on the air every Sunday evening, 6 o'clock. You can also tweet in your questions. If you're a Twitter user, you can use hashtag HRER, and we'll be happy to answer your Twitter questions as well. We like hearing from you and finding out what's important to you. You can also find us over on Facebook. During the week, you can get more information about real estate over on our Facebook page as well. If you're just joining us, I want to remind you that you can go to HoustonRealEstateRadio.com and watch all the videos of today's show. So if you hear something, you think it's interesting, you want to find out more, go online and you can check out all of today's show. We've been talking about staging with Barb Schwartz. She's a mother of home staging. She's been talking to us about different things with staging your home, making sure it's ready to sell, giving you some great tips and ideas. And now, let's change the subject a little bit. We're going to talk about building codes. Whenever you get ready to build something, there's always some codes involved. So now I'm joined by Sheila Blake here in the studio. She's the Assistant Deputy Director, Code Administrator for the City of Houston. So she does a lot of building code enforcement through her work with the city, and want to talk with her because, whenever you're building a new construction home and there's permitting involved, there's going to be some law enforcement behind it for the codes, just making sure that everybody's doing what they need to be doing to comply. So welcome to the show, Sheila.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with, let's talk about the codes. Why are the codes in place? What do they do? Because, you have home builders and they're educated on how to build a home the right way and what to do. So what's the point of the codes? Tell us about that. Because sometimes some people look at y'all in a kind of a negative light. Oh, they're coming to inspect the house. They're going to make us change something.
Well, that's true. And people don't like change and don't want to do things different. But, if you think about it, do you ever walk into a building and wonder, should I walk in here? Of course you don't. You assume somebody's taking care of that it's a safe building.
That it's safe. Mm-hmm.
So the code set minimum standards for safety, fire safety, structural durability, etc. And the inspector is an unbiased set of eyes looking at a project where they don't, we don't benefit if they cut corners. We're actually looking to make sure they don't cut corners.
Mm-hmm. And by minimum standards, tell me about some of the minimum standards y'all look for. Let's talk, because this is a consumer-oriented show, let's talk about new construction homes, because that's what a lot of our consumers out there listening want to know about is new construction homes. What are the things that you're looking for on a new construction home to make sure it's been done correctly?
Oh, well, we look at the homes right from the beginning while the dirt is being moved around. They're putting in the underground. So we're checking, for example, to make sure that something as simple as your plumbing pipes, maybe your gas pipes are sleeved. When they go through the concrete, you don't want those to corrode. Mm-hmm. So that needs to be done, even before the concrete is poured. And then, of course, we're looking at your rebar spacing in the foundation. We're looking to look for different fault protection in the electrical systems right at the foundation level. And then all the way through, there's certain things that just really are important to make sure the building is safe, and you don't have to think twice about these things later on.
Mm-hmm. So, so in new home inspections, how many inspections do the new homes go through from you guys?
Well, there's basically like 7 major components or inspections all the way from the underground to the final. And
is that on every home, or is that like if a builder's got the same set of plans and they're building that home in 7 places around town, is it just one of those homes you go look at, or do you actually look at every house?
We look at every single one.
Okay.
Every single permit requires inspections that need to be signed off before you can get the final approval on that permit.
Okay. All right. Very good. So, tell us about what do you think about changing standards? Because the codes do change year to year. There are updates that are made. Is that because the old ones aren't safe anymore, or is that because there are just more technology, better improvements, and you just update them as you feel like it's going to be better for consumers?
That's a really good question. I would say that a home that's built, to the code 40, 50 years ago is perfectly fine, and it will, is something we call grandfathered. Mm-hmm. Legally, they are considered to be approved by the city once they're occupied, and we don't go back and tell them to upgrade it because it was safe at the time it was built. The new codes do add, like you said, new technologies, better information, the more we learn. It's something as simple as a window location. It used to be, that a window needed to be a certain height off the floor. Well, we're finding that it needs to be a little bit lower, just a few inches. Okay, well, that first window that was at 44 inches and, 48 inches and now is set at 4 inches isn't less safe. It's just we know it's better to have it a little bit lower, that sort of thing. So the buildings are just fine.
Okay. The city's committed and invested in many programs that reduce costs and improve efficiency and decrease on the greenhouse gas emissions. And we talked about that earlier in first segment too, that the buildings in Houston are getting more energy efficient. Do you think that that's important?
Oh, yes. Energy efficiency is a cost that people want to minimize. After all, if you're operating businesses, you don't want to spend your money on the energy. And of course, homeowners, they need to have their money spent on things that are more important to them. If you had a house that saves energy to start with, they're saving money every month on their utility bills they can use for their priorities.
Do you think that building these government buildings and even retrofitting government buildings with better technologies and better equipping them for green energy, to function more green, is it saving the taxpayers money?
Absolutely. There's something called life cycle costing. You can throw something up cheaply, but then you might have very high expenses operating it later on. So looking at the life cycle of a building, most of these investments in technology pay back in just a couple of years. And so after they pay back in that couple of years, every single month, you're saving money.
And the city of Houston adopted a new building energy efficient code just recently, right?
Just yesterday, City Council passed an increase to the efficiency of our residential energy code. 3 years ago, they made a commitment that each year they would reconsider a 5% increase. And working with our stakeholders in the industry, the Greater Houston Builders Association, for example, the Construction Industry Council, and some of the environmental organizations, we came together and we checked to make sure that they felt that the technologies were in place that we could make the next incremental step up, and we've done so. And the City Council passed that yesterday.
So that's going to go into effect in February?
Right, 30 days out, so that's February 7th.
Okay, and so how does this benefit consumers?
Well, I think the number one benefit, of course, is the savings on your electricity. The more energy efficient it is, the more it beats the basic codes in efficiency. It saves them money every single month. In fact, studies have shown that on a mortgage, the incremental difference that you pay monthly for that difference is actually paid back right away on your energy savings. As long as you're using smart features to accomplish it. And I think that's really important to know is that we have 4 different ways to comply, different paths. We don't say you achieve the energy this way. We just set the target and leave it up to the builders to determine how they're going to get there.
So what are those 4 different paths?
Well, one is, of course, programs like Energy Star. Those are already off-the-shelf programs. If people are participating in those, we honor them. The second one is called energy software and testing. There's several basic software programs. Some are free. And then doing some testing with it. Testing is required on the new home anyway. Testing of the ducts and the envelope. And the third way is something called option packages, where we give several options. I think there's 6 of them right now. You pick one of the packages, you do those 3 or 4 things, you're done. And these are things that are very simple: better windows, tighter insulation, things that people understand, radiant barriers, CFL lighting. So you pick a package, and that's how you achieve it, and that's an option you can use. And the last one was offered to us by the Greater Houston Builders Association this time around. They said, let's use a performance path. There's a new 2012 code that has not yet been adopted by the state. It's under consideration, and it's kind of equivalent to 15% better like the level we're at now. Let's use one of the paths, one particular path they selected from that as an equivalency that we would accept. We said, we looked at it, and it was vetted and accepted.
All right. Well, it sounds like y'all are doing a great job over there. A lot of good information for homeowners, and it's great that we have this protection. Like you said, you don't walk into a building and wonder if it's safe. And, that's important. All right. So there's a website. People can find out more information about what you guys do over there at HoustonPermittingCenter.org. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming in. Appreciate the information. I'm Shanna Register, and you're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. If you missed any of today's show, you can go to HoustonRealEstateRadio.com and find links to all of our sponsors, our recommended lender, and more. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week at 6 o'clock to learn more here on Houston Real Estate Radio.